Man, Fortnite is on Android and iOS and gaming consoles and PC. But one thing you don't hear a lot about is Fortnite on Mac. And not just that, but Fortnite on an older Mac. So today we're going to take a look at Fortnite on a 2013 iMac. So here we go. So the machine we're going to be checking this out on is the late 2013 27-inch iMac. It's got a 4th generation i7 processor, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and a GTX 780M video card with 4 gigabytes of dedicated VRAM. We're going to take a look at this in macOS High Sierra, as well as Windows 10 through Boot Camp on the same machine. Both High Sierra and Windows 10 have all the latest updates, and Fortnite has all the latest updates as of the date of this video. And without further ado, let's check out the performance of Fortnite on the 2013 iMac. Alright guys, so here we are in the 2013 iMac. We're in macOS High Sierra, and let me just show you some of the settings I got here. If we go into here, so I got windowed full screen. It's 2560 by 1440, so the full resolution of the monitor. Frame rate is set to unlimited. What I did here was I selected the high preset and then just dragged the 3D resolution up to 100%. VSync and motion blur are off, and I just have show FPS on so we can see where the frames per second are. And we're going to jump into playground mode just so we can see what is what here. Alright, so just after loading in, you can see we're getting 20s, like low to mid 20s frames per second. Definitely not very smooth. Even on the bus here, we're getting around 30, between mid 20 and 30, and it's still not very smooth at all. And then usually when I skydive out of the bus, you're going to start seeing these huge frame drops like there. As we skydive down, the frame drops just keep coming and coming, and that's one thing that I noticed on the macOS side. No matter what you do with the settings, you know, you can get some playable frame rates, but with those spikes, it kind of makes it unplayable. Well, it definitely makes it unplayable because those spikes are gonna come when at the worst possible moment when you're just about to get into a fight or something. I mean, even, you know, parachuting in here, it's pretty bad. Plus the frames, even without those drops, are only in the 20s right now. So let's go ahead and tweak some of these settings, see if we can get that up a little bit. You know, let's go ahead and set that 3D resolution down to 1920 by 1080. See if that does anything. We're up to low 30s, so that's a little bit better. Still not a great frame rate though, and it's dropping down into the 20s. So let's tweak a little bit more. Let's I'm gonna go out of windowed full screen and go into full screen, and then I'm gonna drop the resolution down a little bit. Let's drop it down to 1920 by 1080, unlimited, everything else the same, and see what we're getting here. So here, we're still only getting around 30 frames per second, which, again, is not great. If we bump the graphics quality down to medium, so now we're up higher. We've got a better frame rate now. It's up at 80, you know, between high 60s to 80, which is, you know, definitely respectable frame rate, but as you can see, we keep getting those frame drops where it just kind of freezes up for a second. And again, like I said, that's the problem. That's what makes it unplayable in here. Right now it's pretty smooth, and that happens. It smooths out, you think you're good to go, and then all of a sudden you go to get into a firefight and you get one of those drops and you just get annihilated because by the time the screen unfreezes, you're already dead. So just as one more test, let's go into here and bump this up a little bit. in full screen mode. Let's see if we can get a better frame rate at a little bit higher resolution. So yeah, here we're at 40s to 50s in full screen mode, which is pretty decent. Again, it's running pretty smooth, but then you get those drops like we just did there. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to restart into Windows, and on this same machine I have loaded Windows loaded in Boot Camp, Windows 10 with all the latest updates. We're going to take a look at things in there and see how well it works. Alright guys, so here we are on the late 2013 iMac, but this time we are in Windows 10, and if we go into the settings, we have it 2560 by 1440, unlimited frame rate. Again, I just chose the high setting and dragged that up to do the full 3D resolution, and VSync and motion blur are off, show FPS are on, just like on macOS. And let's jump into a game and see how this performs in Windows. Again, I'm just doing Playground. Alright, so here we are and loading in, and you can already see it's much better. High 30s to 40s, none of those drops. Just moving around when we're on the bus here, that's definitely much smoother, right around 40 frames per second. Let's go ahead and drop out of here as soon as we can. Okay, and on macOS I would almost always see a drop in frames as I'm skydiving in, and there's nothing. It's completely smooth so far. Right around 30 frames per second. As we get in here and things are loading in, still no drops in frames. Pretty solid 30. I'm going to go ahead and mess with the settings a little bit and see what these other settings get us. If we want to get a little more frames out of it, we can go into full screen mode, drop it down to 1920 by 1080, keep it on high, and see what we get here. So now we're getting around 60. Yeah, so 65. Let's get out of this building here. Yeah, we're right around 60, mid 50s to 60s. None of those frame drops. This is definitely a playable experience. You know, 50 to 60 frames per second is very respectable frames. You can have a very enjoyable experience. Everything looks great with the high graphics quality, and you shouldn't have any problem playing it. On macOS, I would not recommend playing it because of those drops, and it doesn't perform as well. It's about 10 frames per second less in macOS than it is in Windows. So if you're going to play it on a 2013 iMac, or probably any, well, honestly, if you're going to play it on any Mac, you should probably do it in Windows 10 through Boot Camp, especially on an older Mac like this. It's performing much better, and I would definitely say this is a playable experience. Alright, so I guess it's not too much of a surprise that this game works so much better in Windows than it does in macOS. Windows typically has better driver support, and the games that come out are typically better optimized for Windows than they are for like macOS or Linux. But Fortnite is very playable on this computer. In Windows, again, I can't really recommend it in macOS. You can get some decent frame rates, but with those frame rate drops, it just makes it unplayable. It was a really smooth experience in Windows, and definitely playable on this machine. So hopefully you found this video useful and or informative. If you did, please hit that like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. If you have any questions or comments on anything that I talked about in this video, please leave it in the comment section below, and come see me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I love meeting new people on there and chatting with them as well, and I will see you in the next video.